The lighthouse itself remained through it all. Rachel could feel it now, as if the years were layers rather than a timeline, as if it all existed at once, here in this room. She and Jacob were simply part of it, one row of stitches in a vast quilt. Rachel found some comfort in that, in this moment where her life felt large and her present pain felt bigger than what she could manage. That in the fullness of time, she was small. They were small. But this moment, this time, was all she had. And that moment's relief she felt fell away. Each second on the ticking clock louder, the sound of his rattling breath echoing in her. Her husband, the only man she'd ever loved. They'd been hand in hand all this time. They'd found new ways to stretch a bond, commitment over the years. As his needs had changed, her place in his life had changed, and his in hers. Changed, but not become less important. She'd been a wife, and a companion, and a caregiver. More wife than caregiver at first, but that had changed too, like a tide rolling in and out. His expression, which had been flat for the past few hours, changed. A small smile touched his lips, and he closed his eyes. For a moment she knew a kick of terror, that this might be it. She knew that it was, but just a few more minutes, that was all she wanted. She had accepted that she would be a widow, but now she was at the stage where she was happy to delay it 5 more minutes. Not that anyone asked her about timing. "Remember when Emma was born?" His voice was thin. She looked at him. His eyes were still closed. "I remember." It was like he could read her thoughts, and honestly, she wouldn't be surprised if he could. "That was one of the happiest days of my life." He opened his eyes. They looked glassy now, distant, like they were seeing something else. "The other one was when I married you." A tear slid down Rachel's cheek, because her husband was a good man, and 40 was too young to die. 39 was too young to be widowed. Being so aware of the history all around, of the ages and generations of time contained in these walls, all the people who had walked across these wooden floors, these years felt all that much shorter. Far, far too short. Her eyes skimmed across the orange and white bottles of prescription medication that cluttered the top of the nightstand, to the photo of their wedding day, when they'd been 18 and blissful, totally unprepared for what lay ahead. Meningitis, which was terrifying on its own, but she'd had no idea, they'd had no idea, of the side effects that were possible. For that first seizure that would come only a year later, followed by brain bleeds, brain surgeries, endless clotting complications. Finally, this. Cancer. How had this man who had been through so much, who had already had a rare illness with rare side effects, it didn't make sense. He looked so different now than he had before, than he had on their wedding day or when Emma was born. For every year she'd aged, she'd watched him age too. The ravages of illness were cruel. It had cost him to keep on living all this time, and he'd done it, brilliantly. She knew that people felt sorry for them, for him, for her, as if loving him had been a burden, as if his love hadn't been sufficient to carry them through this moment. He had never been a burden. The love between them had only ever been a gift. And it was so hard to give up such a beautiful gift. "I like these pictures," he said, "but you should have hung up the ones I took of you." Her heart went tight. "The ones you took of me in my underwear? I was not going to hang them."